Welcome to ADHD with me, Donna, the sorcerer of all the things at Unravel Tea, and
me, Sarah, Willy Mama.
you need no more introduction. I like it. So join us today as we actually remember this time to ask the question, what's in our mind and what's in our cup?
So today we'll speak about yellow tea, emotional regulation, and energy vampires. So Donna, what's on your mind and what's in your cup today?
So today I have an amazing yellow tea from Georgia, the country.
Ooh.
And yeah, it's incredible. And yellow tea is quite a new kind of tea, and it was an accidental discovery, a happy accident. There we go. And it's actually quite hard to find really good yellow tea. I'm so excited about it. I have been thinking a lot about people pleasing.
Ooh, big topic.
Yes.
So I'm quite impressed that in one sentence you've already expanded my tea knowledge. So we have black tea, green tea, and now yellow tea.
Mm-hmm. And white tea and oolong tea. And there's also another category called dark tea.
Who knew? Not me. And what are the special properties of yellow tea?
Yellow tea is actually quite similar to a green tea. It has, you can have lots of different steps with green tea, but there's a kind of basic ones, but it also adds in a little bit of fermentation. So oxidization, which makes the leaves turn black, it's oxidizing, it's creating something oxide. Whereas fermentation is a biological process, so it's actually like bacteria in there which is starting to break down the compounds in the leaves. So yeah, yellow tea can be really interesting, but it can also be really terrible if somebody does not know what they're doing.
As I discovered, tea in general can be really horrendous if someone doesn't know what they're doing. Hence why I said for years, for decades in fact, that I was not a tea person until I met you. So yeah.
I say I don't drink other people's tea, but obviously there are exceptions to that. But on a whole, in the UK, I won't drink somebody else's tea, and I'll take my own tea with me.
Yeah, don't blame me. I've actually started now having a little pouch of our tea whenever I go away because it's become such a part of my ritual every day that if I don't, I really miss it. And then it never occurred to me until you said, why don't you bring some with you? And now I do, and I love it.
So, Sarah, what is in your cup and what's on your mind?
What's in my cup? I'm firmly in pumpkin spice cappuccino season. I hate to say I know it's not tea, but it's October, and for me, October is pumpkin spice. So I am firmly both feet in pumpkin spice season, drinking way more of it than I should. Gets me through the day. And what's on my mind? Also Halloween and the crazy thing of having kids and going through Halloween and then Christmas and just all the expense and sheer logistics of trying to organize all of that. So yeah, that's where my mind is right now, and I'm constantly coming in and out of sheer overwhelm multiple times a day, and then realizing, you know what, a lot of this pressure that we put on ourselves doesn't even matter, and kids don't even care. So then I have to try and reground myself and stop myself from spiraling out of control. So yeah, it's fun. It feels
And
like
yes,
there's some synergy between your people pleasing and what I said accidentally. I didn't mean there to be, but it feels like there is some.
oh, definitely. You just read my mind, actually. I was about to say those words. A steep learning curve, let's say, over the past 2 weeks.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
with regards to like boundaries, and I've always had a philosophy of, sort of treat others as you wish to be treated yourself. And it really bothers me to kind of go against that. But I think that that's like something that's been sort of almost imposed upon me because like in the whole sort of setting boundaries thing, it's like, oh, you should be a good girl, you should do, the people pleasing aspect of it. But when somebody keeps on like stamping all over your boundaries and completely disrespecting you or somebody you care about or anything, it's so hard to just go, wait a minute, that's not okay. because you
Yeah,
expect them to give you a level of respect, and if they don't have that respect,
exactly. I mean, treat others as you would want to be treated 100%. But if they don't afford you the same courtesy, then all bets are off. Rule
hmm
no longer applies, and you've got to respect yourself enough to say, I'm not available to this BS.
hmm
I'm no
hmm
longer making myself available to be taken advantage of in whatever shape form it comes. So it's an awesome philosophy, and if only everybody lived by that philosophy, the world would be such a better place. But when people don't, then they don't deserve that. In my opinion, in my opinion, they don't deserve it back when they don't. Now that doesn't mean that you give back what they give you, but I think just don't make yourself available to be mistreated in that way.
Yeah, I find that because some people do it in, I don't think it's, I have to also say I'm trying to give people a benefit of the doubt. It's not on like an insidious, it's not an intentional, I'm going to just creep in and slowly ramp up the kind of disrespect,
Yeah.
essentially. But because that is what happens, it's like, you kind of let one small thing slide because you're like, it's fine, it's not a big deal, and it does ramp up. But it's hard to sort of take a step back sometimes and go, wait a minute, actually, no, this is not okay.
hmm
And it sometimes has to come to some kind of climax to actually go, wait, this is definitely not okay. Why am I even in this situation?
hmm Yeah, that's true. And for me, I think this is where the clear communication comes in, because it's like, it's one thing to say, yeah, I'm not available to this and I'm going to just cut this off at the source and just not be. But then at any point, did we make it clear that this is what we expected from the interaction? Did we lay down some ground rules? Did we express our boundaries and what's okay and what's not okay? Now, in maybe in most instances, reasonable human beings should understand what's okay and what's not okay. But if it's a more delicate arrangement, maybe there needs to be more clear sort of expectations and boundaries from the outset so that this
Mm-hmm.
type of scenario doesn't arise. I'm saying this very hypothetically because I don't know what the scenario is. For example, with me and my husband, like, we live together 24/7, we're together all the time. I work from home, so we're always in each other's space, especially during lockdown when we when we had the three kids and everything. Everybody was here, and it was like we were taking things as being read, like I was taking it that he could read my mind and that he knew what I was thinking and what I wanted and what I needed. But
Mm-hmm.
actually he didn't, and vice versa. And it took us to really sit down and say, when this happens, I feel like this. And then when you do this, it makes everything escalate. And it was like being really clear of, like, when I say this thing or when I start behaving in this way, it would be super helpful if you could do A, B, C, or D to help me out of the situation, and just getting to know each other's cues, because we're not mind readers. We're not mind
Mm-hmm.
readers. And yeah, I just find being really clear on the communication and saying, this situation has arisen. I'm not saying that you did it deliberately to make me feel a certain way, or that your actions were, like you say, insidious. Nothing like that. But this has happened more than once, and as a result, I feel this way. It would be really helpful if you could, first of all, clarify what is in fact going on here, and secondly, that's not okay, and I would prefer if you did this instead, or said this
Mm-hmm.
instead, or whatever it is. And it can be really helpful for both people, because I think 90% of people don't set out to be assholes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if we make it clear and go, your behavior, your lack of thought has really had a negative impact on me, and I know you're not a nasty person, so I'm just letting you know that you did this or said this, and I perceived it in this way, and it's had this negative outcome. So I want to afford you the courtesy to actually rethink and do better next time. And then if they don't,
Mm-hmm.
then it's not on you. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You're saying that your husband can't read your mind. I actually sometimes turn around to my husband because I realize that there's been a not even miscommunication, but there's one of us has misunderstood each other or something. And I'm like, why can't you read my mind? So it's kind of like that's the signal of, yeah, okay, there's something going on here. We need to actually like figure out what's going on because this shouldn't spiral any further, or you know what I mean, it shouldn't go any
Mhm.
further. So yeah, I turn around, I'm like, why can't you read my mind?
But even having that and having that in a light-hearted way, that's a trigger to sit down and have a conversation. And even I'm sure he knows that's a cue now at this point.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Where
yeah, yeah.
so and it's just it's about picking up those cues and actually loving and respecting each other enough, and not just in a marriage, in a relationship like that, but actually in a professional setting as well. We should all care about the other person enough to go, right, okay, we want to get the best out of each other here, no matter what the situation. So we're gonna invest the time to get to know each other's cues, get to know what light each other up, and then we can work with that information
Mhm.
for the better of both of us. That's definitely my jam, effective communication, and not assuming that although I am intuitive, I'm not a mind reader, and everybody else is not
I'm
either.
disappointed. I thought you were a mind reader. You misled me this whole time. It's interesting, but it must also be quite difficult to do that, like with your kids, because obviously, it's a lot more of a learning curve for them, and obviously it's a learning curve for both, like both. I'm saying as if you've got like one child, your children, and obviously yourself as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Even for me, it's only now that I would say I've become an effective communicator, because I am very emotional, and my emotional regulation just didn't exist for a long time. So
No, that feeling.
anytime someone said no to me or didn't behave in a way that I expected them to behave, it was a full-blown rejection and a full-blown visceral full body reaction to
Mhm,
being rejected and cut wide open, and it was just
mhm,
horrendous. And I can actually recognize a mirror of that in my daughter, especially. She has a very visceral reactions to being told no, or being, even if you say something as a joke, if she sees it as in some way like I'm the butt of this joke, and I don't I don't want to be the butt of someone's joke, it really wounds her deep. So it's like,
mhm,
and I can relate so much because that was me up until maybe 10 years ago. So then it helps me having that window into how her body and mind are coexisting together.
mhm,
It
mhm,
helps me to know how to help her to regulate, and then how to not push her buttons as well.
mhm, mhm,
And whereas you can joke away with the boys, and it's a lot more tongue in cheek, but with her
mhm.
you just can't, because she takes it very, very personally, and it's just, I guess, like I say, having that journey of learning to regulate myself helps me to then give them the skills to do it as well, and also the vocabulary around emotions. And something that I really work on with them is they don't necessarily have the emotional intelligence to go, I feel scared, or I feel anxious, or I feel any of those things. But what we do is we say, where is the sensation in your body? Like, where are you feeling it in your body? What does it feel like
Mhm,
in your body? So if it's in your tummy, in your head,
mhm,
wherever it is, and then we work through the emotion, the sensation.
mhm, mhm.
Because they can describe a sensation, like if it's tight or if it's whatever,
Mhm.
and then we name it as anxious, worried, scared,
Okay.
sad, angry, whatever it is, and then we work through getting rid of that from our bodies. So, and that's just something that I like. Nobody taught me that. It's just something that I thought I'll try this and see what happens, and it seems to work well for them, because
Mhm.
then you hear them doing it with each other, which is really cute.
Oh, that's
Like they'll,
lovely.
they'll, they'll go through like especially my 8-year-old and my 3-year-old. The 8-year-old will really help him to work through, like, I feel angry or whatever, and he's like, yeah, you feel it in your tummy, or you feel it in your chest, or let's breathe it out, let's hug it out. It's so cute to see them doing it, and it's like, yeah, if I do nothing else as a parent, helping them to be able to healthily express their emotions, then I feel like I've completed the level. It's like, 'cause
Yeah.
we just didn't have emotional intelligence. It wasn't part of our curriculum at
Yeah.
all, like, either in school or at home.
Mhm.
Just wasn't, and it's something that I struggled with for so long.
Oh, yeah. Same. I mean, I was still struggling with it. I think I only started to come to grips with it maybe 3 years ago. And I didn't realize that not everybody reacted emotionally in the way that I did. And I didn't understand why I was doing it either. And I think that was actually a huge factor into why my diagnosis was so important to me as well. Other than the other ones we've spoken about, but it's kind of let me give myself some space and actually put into words how I'm feeling, because I never had that before.
And that whatever way you react to something is completely valid. Just because it's different to how I react doesn't make
Mm-hmm.
your reaction or my reaction any less valid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
You're not too much.
exactly. You're just you, and there's no level of Donna that's acceptable, and no level of me that's acceptable. We are just ourselves. And some days we'll
Mm-hmm.
be super balanced and super quote unquote normal, and other days we'll be super quirky, and that's completely okay because it's just who we are. And it definitely is very liberating to know, and even just to recognize, like, you'll know this firsthand because I retreat frequently from especially group conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling
Mm-hmm.
overstimulated over anything. I just completely retreat, completely unplug, and just do not respond in any way, shape, or form. But then if I message someone and they don't respond within like a day, I get super triggered. And then I'm like, how's those double standards working out for you? Like, but I can recognize it in myself, and then instead of going, oh my god, they hate me now. You're like, why are they not responding? It's like they give me the respect and the space and the love to disconnect for a while. So I need to afford them the same courtesy. I have no idea what's going on in their life right now. So I'm gonna be respectful, be a normal human being, and just stay calm and wait to see what we're dealing with on the other side. And just being
Mm-hmm.
aware of that is a trigger point for me. It's like, okay, so I'm not gonna make it someone else's problem. I'm gonna deal with it myself and recognize it and just be okay with it.
Yeah. That is actually really interesting, because I think that also feeds into the whole people pleasing thing as well,
Mm-hmm.
in some ways, because I do exactly the same. You're kind of aware, okay, there's all this stuff happening in this other person's life. I want to give them the space. Their reaction is nothing to do with me. Their reaction is completely
Exactly.
to do with them. But you can sometimes give people a little bit too much leeway, and then it can kind of then descend into actually just don't respect you whatsoever. They don't even respect you as a human being, and it's really hard when you've had all these little kind of signs, indications. I don't know,
Mm.
um, but you don't really know when to draw the line.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, like red flags essentially, and you've ignored the red
Yes.
flags and give them more and more and more grace, and then all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
there's like a big slap upside the head. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true. For me, it comes to the point where if it feels like I have friends, and I would say you are definitely one, who if I didn't speak to you for like a month when we
I
would
wouldn't like to do
connect, well,
that.
no, but it's like when we would reconnect again and spend some time chatting or whatever again, I would feel like, oh, that was good. I feel nourished. I feel reconnected. I feel happy to be alive, essentially, from being around you. Whereas if it's somebody who just literally floats in and out of your life, and every time they appear, they want something, and you're feeling depleted by every interaction and getting nothing back, that's when it's no longer cool, and that's when it's like,
Hmm.
I'm just being used here, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's not cool in any shape or form. Like,
Yeah.
it's a very different thing. And like I talk about radiators and vampires, like energy radiators are the people who just knowing they're in your life, you feel better. The vampires are the ones who every time you see their name flash up on your phone, your heart sinks because it's like, what do they want now? Like, what do they want this time? And if
Hmm.
you've got more vampires in your life than radiators, then there's a conversation needs to be had. There's some streamlining needs to happen.
Oh yeah. Without it reaching the pressure cooker point, have you figured out a way to stop it, or to realize and to reevaluate before that point? Because please share, because I would like to know.
Do you mean before you want to cut someone out of your life or before you need to retreat?
Before you want to cut somebody out of your life, you got all these wee red flags, and you're trying to treat this person with respect, but they're not doing the same. Like, how do you not let it get to a point where it's actually detrimental to your health, to your mental health?
I'm going to say something that's very controversial. Like I say, if I get to the point where every time I see someone's name on my phone, I'm like, oh shit, here goes. Like that for me is a thing. And I mean, I'm going to be honest, it's happened with people very, very, very close to me. That is literally what the block button is for. If I would usually start by muting somebody so that they're literally not popping up on my phone, and then I'll go in periodically and check and see what nonsense is being spewed. And then if it gets to the point where even knowing that there's nonsense that I can't see is still affecting my inner peace, then I will literally block them. And you know what the interesting thing is? I've blocked about 5 people in the last 10 years, so it's not like I'm not a serial blocker or anything. And at least 4 of the 5 never even noticed that they were blocked. So what's going on there? So that really showed to me that like this was a completely like a monologue. This relationship was a full blown monologue. They weren't even taking anything back that I was given. It was just like
I don't even know how to respond to that.
exactly. So it's just if someone in your life is basically performing a monologue and neither given or then there's literally no point. So
thank you so much for that insight, Sarah. That was really interesting.
I don't want to give the impression that I'm a serial blocker because I really am not. But honestly, like you said, the pressure cooker, there comes a point where you have to respect your own inner peace and your own well-being more than any other person in the world. Because if you're not out there championing your own well-being, no one else is gonna.
And nobody can read your mind to know exactly what you need as well. So there's also that part.
Exactly. I mean, we talked about self-advocating. You spoke about that previously. To me, being conscious about who you allow into your space and who you give your time, energy, and presence to is the best way that you can self-advocate.
Thank you so much for listening to us talk about yellow tea, a little bit of people pleasing, and how you can maybe navigate the people pleasing and so it doesn't get to a pressure cooker point. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next week. If you could also give us a wee like and subscribe as well so you don't miss any future episodes, because I will probably forget to tell you when I've uploaded them, but it will be every Friday at 4 a.m. Don't ask me why 4 a.m. It's just what happened. Anyway, thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Random shout out to the person who messaged me at 5 a.m. to say I've just listened to the latest episode. You know who you are, and you're awesome.